Good evening, everyone, and thank you again. We are now going to move back into the public session for the committee of the whole meeting. We're at Home to High School, 7 p.m. May we have a motion to return to public session, please?
Move.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. We are going to call the meeting to order. Meetings of the board are open to the public, and all the members of the community should feel free to participate. There's one opportunity for the public to speak. Any individual who wishes to speak, please give your name, address, and the group, if any, that you're representing. If the presentation could be as brief as possible, appreciate it, no more than 3 minutes. There are certain matters that may be brought before the board that cannot be immediately addressed in public. They may be referred to by the president to a board committee or to superintendent for consideration and resolution. The board also vests in the president or other presiding officer authority to terminate any remarks if it's deemed in the best interest of those present to do so, which we don't expect that to happen. Can everyone please rise for the salute to the flag? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Dr. Cascon, no presentation, public hearing this evening, correct?
No, President Wall.
Okay. There are no action items. Any Board of Education liaison reports that any member would like to put forth? Seeing none. Board subcommittee reports? Seeing none. Old business?
Mr. Wall,
Sir.
I think Mr. Lebechi wanted to give an update from public relations and community relations.
Fantastic. I apologize.
Yeah,
Board member
so
Lebechi.
just to let everybody know, the Communications Committee has met today. We met with one of the finalists of the public relations companies that we are interviewing. We have one more interview to conduct, and then we'll be making our decision. And I'll be honest, I'm really excited about it. I think it's really going to help us to give a lot more clarity and communication to the stakeholders here, and that's really what it's about. But also really promote our school the way it needs to be promoted, around New Jersey, around the country for that matter. And we deserve to be seen a lot more than we already are. So that's what their intent is. So I'm very excited for this, and it's going to be great.
Hey, Scott, question on that, since I wasn't at the July meeting. I know we used to have sort of a public relations firm in the background if we needed a break in time of class, whenever there's swatting incidents, hurricanes, whatever it might be, school closures, pandemics. And then years ago, when we realized our communications wasn't as robust as I think the board and district and town wanted, we assigned, I think, people in each district, I think we had a teacher that was what do we call it, like a social media person. And then I think we had a social media person at the district level. I don't know if that fell on you, Scott, or if it was someone else. Is that still in place? Will we still have Schedule Bs doing that? And would that stay with the PR firm, or would it be sort of some sort of synchronicity between the two, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Mr. Reddy. So the company that the district had contracted with we were still with when I first arrived, and that was really just sort of on retainer and was used only if and when necessary, and was really geared primarily towards crisis communications in the event those were needed. What we're looking at now is really more of sort of a comprehensive support and comprehensive kind of a menu of services from a public relations firm. And more direct relation to answer to your question, we do still employ those Schedule Bs in different schools. If you see social media posts that come up for any of the schools, those are actually pushed out by those folks. But I would say that it's a synchronicity, right? The public relations firm would be working hand in hand, not only with leadership in the board, but also with any individuals we had the district who are already serving in those roles, including the Schedule Bs. You're welcome.
No, I think I missed last time's meeting, but did you interview a few companies and you finalized on this?
Yes, we interviewed 3 companies. We drilled it down to 2. We met with one of those final 2 tonight, and we'll be meeting with the other one at some point. We'll be making that schedule. And then once we pick our finalists, we'll probably have them come in and do a presentation for us, either virtually or in person, for the rest of the board.
Thank you very much. And public relations may mean different things to different board members. Many boards in the state are hiring public relations companies when they don't have any, when they're in a crisis and they have a problem. So this is altogether different. This, in my mind, this is, we have, I think, very thoughtful public relations currently from the principals, the administrative staff, to the community and to the residents in different format, whether it be it social media, direct mail, email from the superintendent. So in my mind, it's, yes, you want to have folks available to have communications. For example, in a municipality, maybe a water main break, or maybe another structural, or perhaps we have a structural issue and we need to get key communications out in a timely fashion in various media. But to me, it's more refining and coordinating the messaging on our various platforms, so they're clear and concise and most importantly, accurate and timely, to share the good work of the administration, the policy work of the board, and the things that are actionable for the public. So I think we are doing a very good job of communicating. In my view, it's more a refinement and a coordination rather than when many districts have a whiplash issue or a piece of litigation, and they're looking for a public relations firm more of a shield to communicate rather than being a transparent vehicle to communicate. So just want to share that. And I also don't think there's a destination where it's a work in progress. It's not going through the motions because you know what you want to do already and you're just checking the boxes. I think it's to the chair's credit and the board members involved. I think it's been iterative and thoughtful and asking different questions and then reacting or responding to the vendors that provide the services, and really having it as an open floor. Dr. Cascone, you may agree, for the board to determine what path forward that they want. So great work so far, I would say. Thank you.
And I say also, Board Member Lebecci, thank you for organizing this and spearheading the initiative, because it did open my eyes as well, not just from a communication standpoint, but I'm really proud of this Homedale brand that we have, the Homedale School District, for decades since I was a student here. And I see an opportunity after meeting with these public relation firms to elevate our brand through marketing and public relations. They showed us some sites that were worked on that really popped and really gave that school different sort of credibility just from what you see with their marketing efforts, welcome videos, the use of social media. So there's a lot we can be doing to take this district from great to exceptional in our community's eyes. People that are considering moving to Homedale, they're looking for a great school in New Jersey, and it'll help, I think, modernize our current infrastructure on that as we move forward into the future. So I appreciate that and I look forward to getting started with one of the firms. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And just a brief note on old business. At a prior meeting, we had discussed having folks being interested in looking at to what extent we would consider naming facilities, whether it be infrastructure, buildings, fields, things of that nature. It could even be, for example, classrooms. I gave an example in an email today. If there's a high-tech classroom, perhaps you may have a high-tech company that funds the infrastructure for that classroom, and they may have some sponsoring or naming rights, that kind of thing. So that said, the committee will be myself, Board Member Tosillo, Board Member Lebecci, and Board Member Buckley. And so that'll be a way to process board input on any type of sponsorship or naming, or whether it's legacy or otherwise, for facilities, fields, and other assets of the district, or items that come in from public input. We'll have a means and method of processing it. So thank you for.
With that being said, I just
Yeah.
want to make one public comment as
Sure.
well, since I'm not a part of that committee. Just my thought that has been surrounded around potentially naming a field or anything of that matter is just please also consider possibly something that Homedale hits, some part of Homedale history or achievements, not just necessarily only considering people. I think it's very difficult to name a field after a person. And it'd be nice. I'd like to see that some kind of Homedale history or something related to Homedale is also considered that might not be somebody's name. So just wanted
You
to
give
throw
an
that out
example
there.
of what you mean by that?
I don't know, just I would have to do more digging and research, but something that
The
means a
Big
lot
Bang
to
Field.
Homedale. Yeah, the Big Bang Field. No good. Hey, they had the Big Bang Mile over in Bell Works this weekend. Look, I think it's something to consider, so I'm putting it out there, but I'm sure we'll have fun coming up with ideas. Thank you.
And I would just share, this is not just about the past, it's also about the present and the future. And that should all be taken into account in a multi-jurisdictional, scratch that, in a multi-generational fashion. So we're really looking over the arc of time from our history, where we are today and where we're moving forward in the future in any of these endeavors. Good?
Terrence,
No, I was gonna say, actually, that reminded me, like, when we're talking about people's names as well, we have the family of the Holmes family that actually donated this entire property that this school sits on. So, their name should be under consideration as well. Just a thought, since Terrence had mentioned that.
No, thank you. I've had probably at least a dozen different legacy names that have been presented for various, assets of the board. And I think that that's the purpose of the committee and the board this year and future years, to have a means and method to review them and make decisions, or to choose not to make a decision as well. All right. Any
Terrence,
other-
I was gonna say, on that, we just need to be uber careful, not for us, but for all the boards that are gonna follow us, because once we name it, we can't unname it. And I'll give you an example. A bunch of years ago, we did some work at the softball field, Venerio Field. I say it wrong? Genario,
German area.
German area.
thank you. So former Homedale person. Anyway, through no one's negative, malice or whatever, they moved the sign. They didn't put it back, or they didn't put it back where it was supposed to go, or something like that, or it just wasn't ready to go back. And I can tell you the ire that came out of this town within weeks was, you couldn't believe. And it was like, no one was doing anything badly. And then my other thing was, like, whatever we name it, there'll always seems to be pushback on the other end of people saying, what about this person? So, you can make one group happy and another group not. I know my personal thing is, it's fine being unnamed right now, not bothering anyone at all and not causing any issues. I mean, if we want to name it, that's fine. There'll be a board decision. I do know a few years ago, I actually made a recommendation that didn't get approved, is we have probably the voice of the shore. There's a guy, the longest tenured employee in this district, Mr. Bill, right? That I said, hey, like, people come back 20 years. He was announcing when you were in school. He's there at every game, whether it's a basketball game, football game. You'll see him in a few weeks. I made a recommendation we couldn't get through. The current board was to name that sports booth up into Rogie Field to Bill Baranowski Memorial Sports Booth. Tiny little booth. I would bet money that we will never see a guy that's going to be here in 30 years again doing what he's doing. I mean, he was back when you were in school, and Terrence, I don't know if he was here when you were in school. We're probably close, right? Mr. Baranowski.
He was a teenager. He was a mentor.
So that was one thing. So, I mean, when we talk about naming things, that would be one thing I'll ask to bring back up again. I think it's great to memorialize people while they're still alive and still here and actually still doing the job. And obviously he's probably doesn't have that many more years left probably here, who knows, but if anything, I think what he's been doing has been great. So good luck with
I
that.
think I agree with Pete. Naming can get us into, it is a subjective thing as to what is, what the whole town wants, what doesn't want. And also if you get a company to sponsor, I think there was some talk about that. And that too may not, may appear very business-like, very commercial in a school. So I feel that we should just let things be. And if a name does have to be picked for whatever reasons, we can do it on a, case by case basis. That's what I think.
I appreciate that, Sarika. I do. I just have a difference of opinion. I feel that any way that we can monetize some of this and be able to bring more money into the school and give more assets to our children is probably going to be the best possible use of being able to just name a place or an entity. So I think there's so much opportunity to bring more revenue here by naming whatever it may be, putting signs up around the different fields. If Hewlett Packard wants to sponsor a room, hey, go right ahead. Give us money. This is what we want in order to do that. And we want the top, technology in here with it for our children. So this has going to come a price. It's not just like, hey, that's a great name. Let's put it on there. It's like, what else is that going to come with that? And how is it going to benefit our children? Right.
I appreciate you expressing a different opinion. This is what makes it fun.
I completely.
I'm
agree.
also curious if there's any history of that going on in schools already, K through 12, where things just from a research perspective. But one thing I want to throw out there, since we're kind of on this topic, if we can also create a committee to modernize our costume for our Homedale Hornet mascot. I think that was from the 70s. And I think that
That's
we could-
sacrilegious.
That's funny that
Wow.
you say that. Yes,
Let's get it. Let's get
I
a new
think that's a
costume.
great
I
idea.
think we can. It's scaring the kids.
But one thing, and I could be completely wrong with this. I could be completely wrong with this, what I'm about to say, but I feel like there's a different Hornet in almost everywhere we go.
Yeah, yeah. that's
So
true.
different teams
True.
have different versions of the Hornet. I think we need to standardize the
I
logo
agree. I
from
agree.
K through 12 or whatever it would be. Or because I know the high school could be different and be a little bit more mature looking or whatever, but.
This is gonna be
K
part
through
of
And
the-
didn't we
it's
talk
gonna be
about that
part
at
of the
Indian
PR.
Hill Gym too, I think, right?
Well, how about
About
painting,
Painting the.
painting
Sats.
the Sats bleachers
that-
where it doesn't say Hawks anymore
But that
when
we
they
got a
get pulled
cost.
out?
That cost was like 40,000.
No, well, can't we just paint it?
That could be
Trying
a
to just
senior
paint the
project.
Phillips Dugouts in.
Ooh, a senior project.
And ask
See?
Well,
students to do
We
that.
got a lot of art students. We should take
We'll get
advantage of
Black
that.
and Decker to sponsor. Yes,
I'm saying even just paint it royal blue. Just get rid of, it doesn't have to be,
That-
have anything said on it. Just
Hawks.
paint it royal blue to get rid of the Hawks because we're no longer that god awful gold and blue that we were.
If anybody would like to chair the WASP Diversity Committee, please, submit your resume. We'll work something out. But the nice thing about having the meetings in public, you're seeing the dialogue and the discussion. And the point of that committee is there's a process that we're at least pointing to a process. So it makes more sense because some of the items that were done in the past, they were just done. There wasn't a process. It was either a subcommittee, which the challenge with subcommittees is that they're not in front of the public. The public isn't invited to it. The public doesn't see the dialogue. And that's why this form, I've argued for it, and we have it. It's imperfect, but I think it's perfect compared to the subcommittee form when you're simply seeing the results at a meeting in a long list of consent agenda items and you don't know how those decisions came to be. Which is, that curiosity and that input is why a lot of us are on the board. Like what's happening here? Because we're volunteer parents in the community and we're interested in making sure that the best things are done for the public, regardless of the divergence of opinions. Yeah.
And I
Anthony,
think
if you
those are
didn't
all
know-
positives
Oh.
of the open committee that you pointed out, and I agree with it. But one thing I have noticed is that there's a loss of depth of investigation, at least when the first couple of years we were curriculum and, at least a couple of committees, we used to do a more deep dive, a few people. So there's always pluses and minuses, but I just want to point that out.
I agree, but the one thing that we are. No, we're calling the ad hoc, we've been calling the ad hoc subcommittees, like we did a bunch with the curriculum and policy, and we'll continue to, but I'll always say, if anybody feels we should go more in depth with something, let's schedule those and take the time to work with that administrator, staff member to converse further.
Still, that's different from having a few people. When you're on one committee, that's all I used to focus on because it's difficult to focus on so many topics. So that was a value, but I just want to point out that there's some pros and cons.
Thank you. Any other items for old business?
I was just gonna say, if you didn't know, so when this district was a K-8, we were Hawks. Because I remember when I first came to this, sitting here, we'd go to a game at Rogie Field, and I was like, why are the home dog kids on the visitor sideline? And we weren't, because the Sats uniforms at that point were blue and gold. And I'm like, why are we blue and gold? I was like, our colors are blue and white. That's what it should be standardized. So when the little kid in first grade sees the senior in high school, he's like, oh, that's the one I want to emulate. That's my role model. So I think we've finally gotten rid of the blue and gold. I don't know.
But only 3
Sats
years
kids,
ago.
but yeah, it took that long. I'm like, why do we have blue and gold uniforms? So it's like, and they were Hawks because it wasn't a K-12 district. Then when it became a K-12
I saw a
district,
Hornet that
everybody
was
became
yellow.
Hornets.
That's a bumblebee.
Yeah, so at least I was close though, because I'm like, okay, at least the Hawks eat bumblebees. Because I'm like, okay, at least the bumblebee becomes a hornet. I could at least understand it.
I'm
like,
defending all these
a hawk.
insects this evening. Right now.
But anyway, that's
All
what
right,
we're Hawks.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Pete, check your text.
I have something else for old business,
Okay.
just as a reminder. So Dr. Cascone, old business. As we're entering the opening of school, I would just like to remind you of my suggestion that in Power School, when the parents have to go and re-register, like we have to update registration every year by October or something, whatever it is, that I had suggested that is where we put in the new pieces of health education curriculum and the opt-in, opt-out so that every parent has to see it. I had suggested it for the start of last school year. It
Yep.
didn't happen.
Yep.
So I'm throwing it out
Well,
there
I
again.
can give you some follow-up on that
Great.
because in the wake of your feedback last year, that became a focus of our conversation during the summer administrative roundtables. And it's remained on our docket in our conversations with Power School, and Power School has still yet to roll out I don't know what you would call that. What would you call that? A solution, an add-on, a plug-in or something like that. And so I didn't get a response from my most recent email from our customer service representative when I said, because he was pitching me on some other feature of Power School. He said, I'm not considering any other features in Power School until you get your act together and you get your programmers on creating this feature in Power School. It is not available on Power School Person. There's no way for us to essentially create a lockout for parents where they have to sign, fill out forms or else they can
Well,
go.
I don't even care about I mean, I know you guys care about the lockout, that they can't see the grades unless they've done it. But what I'm saying is they can't finish registration without it. Like you have to, when you're at Indian Hill, you have to say, I give my kid permission to be a walker or not, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't finish because you can't go to the next page until everything is there. So
Yeah.
I don't know, just I'm putting it out there
I
again.
will say, not to go down too much of a rabbit hole on this one. I think we, and I want to thank our parents and guardians because we got tremendous response rates on our health surveys. Really, almost 100%. So we did a good job, but it was a lot of work on our part, a lot of follow-up, a lot of bookkeeping. So we'll keep looking at it. I'll talk to our technology guys and see what we can do. Last I heard, they were not able to actually execute that in our system, and I expressed my displeasure with the school about that. So that either they figure it out or we may be looking for a new SIS. I was sort of bluffing, but we'll see what happens.
Genesis is great.
Thank you. And I would also say the transparent committee, the whole process that involves all board members is the reason also why you have such penetration and high percentages of folks that are responding, which is great. New business, we're going to go on to 2024, 2025 draft district goals. Dr. Cascone, would you like to review them?
Thank
And
you,
let's open it
Principal.
up to the board. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So just to kind of talk very briefly about process, and going back a little bit in sort of historically, when I arrived as the superintendent, it had been a couple of years since we had actually set district goals. Now, part of that was really a function of the pandemic, and the whole system was on tilt a little bit. But I really feel that setting annual district goals is a really important part of what we do. Getting them done and approved by the board in advance of the school year is ideal, because then when our staff come in on day one and we're engaging in opening faculty meetings and department meetings, we can kind of roll these goals out, and then they just trickle down to the various levels. They inform school goals, department goals, individual teacher goals and professional development plans. So I do consider it a pretty important part of our just kind of our strategic thinking and planning and initiatives. Of course, that we have a 5-year strategic plan. You'll notice that goal number 2, kind of like last year, where it was in complete all year 1 goals in the strategic action plan. This year it's year 2. I just want to quickly just sort of inform the board of what there are 3 main goals that we have tagged in our strategic plan to be completed by June or August of 2025. The first is, and you won't see these reflected in this document, they are in the strategic plan, but I just thought inquiring minds might have wanted to know, like, well, what are the year 2 goals in the strategic plan? Research, design, and implement a new certificated and non-certificated staff member induction program or training program, multi-year induction program. Mr. Howard is presently working on that and is making good progress. Second one is by June 2025, we will implement equitable and research-informed grading practices and provide timely and constructive feedback to students that promote reflection, goal setting, and continuous improvement. Now, you'll see a connection to that goal. It also appears in goal number 3 on the 2024-25 goals to improve student perception of the following area as noted in the strategic plan data triangle survey by greater than or equal to 3%. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, gee, 3% doesn't seem too ambitious. I did have our math supervisor crunch the numbers in terms of our participants, and that is a statistically significant percentage if we were to move that metric by 3%. And more specifically, one of the areas that we noticed, and our data triangle survey identifies strengths, emerging strengths, and risks. The risks are noted in red, and where we saw a risk where we did not see a lot of growth, it did not move out of the risk range between year 1 and year 2, was specifically in this area of students, in the student voice survey, in students indicating that they felt strongly that they were receiving specific feedback from teachers on tests and assessments that they take. So that's going to be a deliberate focus of our administrative team this year, to work with our teachers on not only the timely return of tests and assessments, but how are we using those as opportunities to give students constructive, critical feedback in advance of the beginning of the next unit and new content. So you can just see, and I mention this because you can see sort of those threads that connective tissue, if you will, between our district goals, our strategic plan, and the data that we're getting back from, in this particular case, our students. And then the final year 2 is we will develop a 2-way reciprocal communication system that allows all stakeholders to have an equal partnership to support student education at home and school. And really that connects largely to a number of things, but largely to our plans to roll out an app, a mobile app that can be sort of let's call it like a one-stop shop for parents, where they can receive notifications and things of that nature. Continuing to work on that with our technology department. We did our website provider did launch an app. Final Site did launch an app. I believe July was when they launched. We agreed that we wanted to give it a few months and be able to gather some user experience data to make sure that that's the way we want to go. But we're optimistic that we'll be prepared to roll out an app this year, which I think will really streamline communications for parents and enable them to go to one place to receive, Power School, email notifications, attendance notifications, all that. So those are the 3 main goals in year 2 that are kind of housed underneath goal number 2 in 24-25. The other 2 that are currently on here, one is that we're going to be undergoing a complete district-wide training on the Character Strong curriculum. This was part of a multi-year initiative within our strategic plan to implement a positive behavioral support system. Now, last year, we operated really more on the macro level, the organizational level. You want to talk about branding, kind of getting out our branding, Live Home Del Blue, really establishing what I call building rituals, so building-based recognitions. This is the next step in now kind of extending that into the classroom. But unlike many failed initiatives that I've seen over the course of my career, we move too quickly. We implement with students and staff in the same year, and that's why they fail. Because we do not provide time for teachers to become trained, to become comfortable, to understand how this is going to be infused into our curriculum before we give it to students. So this is really going to be a training year for our staff in preparation for a district-wide rollout of the Character Strong curriculum in the 25-26 school year. I'm getting lost with these years. So that's another one. And the final one, because we always think it's important to have a really purely academic and student achievement-based goal in our district goals. Goal number 4 is to reduce the percentage of students scoring not meeting or partially meeting expectations on all NJ SLA assessments for ELA and mathematics by at least 10%, or bring the proportion below 10%. So those are the 4 goals we came up with. I think that the idea of a 2-way reciprocal communication system sort of resides in the realm of public relations, but I present those draft goals to the board for feedback on those goals, but also if there's anything from the board's perspective of priorities that you think are not represented in this list that you think feel are important to include, because I do think we could add an additional goal. We had 5 last year, and we could add an additional goal. So with that said, I turn it over to the board for any feedback, questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cascone. I'm going to mention one item, and then I'd like to go to each board member and just get your inputs. We could start, for example, with Dr. Klor and come around this way. The senior survey has some great information in it. I pushed to get it a few years ago. The board supported it. We started doing it. It was a little choppy, here and there, but the data was good. The idea is to get raw data from the seniors. on a host of different issues. There are a number of areas, and it ties to the item, I think it's 3, because I think I think that's tying to the survey. There are many things that are done really well, according to the seniors. We grade them for years. The idea is, why don't they grade us about how we're doing? You get it with AT&T when you hang up the phone. We are 1 to 5. Are you likely to refer your friend? So why something as critical as education, we wouldn't do this. So we are, which is great. Like, for example, it's red, yellow, and green, depending. So the green is showing up. Our classrooms have technology such as smart boards or computers. Green, I'll just say green instead of the percentages. Our school has conferences for family, students, and teachers to talk. A really, really important one, I am safe in my school, green, high, 80+%. Our school leaders have high expectations for students and staff, again, green, really good. Teachers use technology in most of the lessons, again, green. And I believe this is probably a public record because it's de-identified. So I think we should post this to the website for staff and for the families to look at. A number of other items that are green and they're really good. There are a number of other items that are yellow. I won't list them, but folks can look it up. It's a very, very interesting piece of information. But then there are items that are red. And the item we're talking about here is, I believe, ties to 3, is about increasing. One of them, receiving feedback from our teachers on the tests or assessments we take. Where is this one here? See if I can locate it. Well, to cut to the chase on it, there are 12 feedback items that are red, which is, red's not a good color for this, So that to me, I would like to tie as a goal or an objective, whether we made it, just because you have a goal, doesn't mean you have to meet the goal, but you get towards the goal, is to turn every red item at least yellow, and some of them are, important. For example, my teachers present information in a way I understand. Oh, no, sorry. Well, go with the students. Most students in our school follow school rules, 34%. Okay, that's 66 plus, right? That are saying they're not following the rules. Our school leaders talk about the importance of learning, 47%. Our school leaders walk around our school and visit classrooms, 39%. Now, there may be differences of opinions depending who you're talking to, but at least this is a perception, this is a snapshot in time from students who are on to the next part of their journey, so ostensibly are giving you honest feedback. Teachers explain things in different ways so that all students learn. That's also red. So are you a visual learner? What kind of learner are you? Well, maybe we're missing the mark there, for example. And if I'm an educator, I want to know this. And a few other ones that can use assistance. So I guess where I'm going with this is, I think this document should be read by everybody, everyone who's employed here or any user group, students, staff, parents, all the folks that are involved in the education piece, and then see moving the red to yellow minimally. Green would be great, but that's item 3. I would like it to be far bolder than taking one item. Let's really use this data and challenge. A goal is to, get something done, as opposed to, I've said in the past, a task. Like, for example, public relations contract. That's a task. It's not a goal. You get a contract, you're done, you move on to the next thing. But this area will be moving all year long. So those 12 items could be like, what are the 12 steps we're doing for these items? That's why I just want to put out as my input on the goals. If we can move red, the 12 items that are red, at least to yellow, then I think that would be a significant move forward. And it's using honest data, I think, honest data from children who have graduated from this school. So they're the ultimate user group. Thank you. So with that, Dr. Clerk, can we start with you? And then if we could just come around so all the board members have an opportunity to share their views on the goals. Thank you.
All right. Firstly, I agree with you, Terrence, that this having this goal of the red, the review from the students being the red turning to yellow is a very good goal. I think it's a good thing we did it, first of all. Secondly, with your report, Scott, there's one portion, the character strong, which I'm looking at a little more. So I wanted to understand, you said you were training the teachers. So how, like on a weekly basis, or just are they attending courses? What is the method of training?
I'm going to go turn, thank you, Dr. Blue. It's a great question. Mr. Howard is sort of leading that initiative, so he could speak in greater detail about the plan for training.
Yeah, Character Strong provides their own training. They send out a person to do it. So we have it broken up. Middle and high school are being trained together, and Village and Indian Hill are being trained together.
This is an outside person training them, somebody.
Yeah, well, Character Strong,
appreciate
yeah,
it. Yeah,
they're,
I'll
it's
retool.
their curriculum. So they send somebody out. Training is like, it's like a 4-hour training. And then they also provide us with online training follow-up that teachers can kind of do on their own. But before we purchase the online package, I just want to see how the live training works for the staff and then the follow-up from that, because we may not need the online training because everybody on the PBSIS committee, all the counselors, I give them a separate training anyway that they can turnkey over to the staff. So we may not need the online portion, but the live portion is coming from Character Strong.
So it's 4 hours in 1 year, just one time, 4 hours.
One time, 4 hours, and then we can pay for follow-ups, kind of as needed. But that's the initial training.
With PBIS, how much training are they getting?
Well, we've been doing the PBSIS work for the last year. Actually, it's really been the last 2, but we kind of focalized it this last year with the creation of the strategic plan and the committees, and bring them in to do summer work. So it's been kind of more pinpointed and focused. I don't know the number of hours that we've been doing it, but I know it's been a ton because we brought them in like numerous times over the summer. We even had people come in and speak. Kim came in and did a little presentation for us, which kind of led us to the Live Home Del Blue kind of philosophy. So we've been doing it kind of ongoing.
Okay, so PBIS was several hours and Character Strong, we're just starting. Thank you.
Okay, my turn. So, as far as the 4 goals, I think that it's fine. If we want to add a 5th, I think that can go back to the survey, which I want to comment on, but just sticking with the 4 right now, I'm really curious how the number 4, that I think that I'm hoping that our numbers are going to really actually be high and exceed the 10% because of the new layout with the waiver system and the placements and stuff. Like, that's my hope. So I really feel like I'm hoping we double that, right? Like, so I look forward to that. And as far as the student survey, so as a data person, I'm going to say that I would be weary to say, hey, I want to get all 12 to turn yellow, because you can only compare the 2 data sets if it's the exact same people taking it, because everyone's teacher experiences are different. Teachers have now retired. There's going to be new teachers. There's going to be new administrators. So it only, is good if the same exact 100 students are taking it the following year, but obviously they can't. So I wouldn't say that all 12, but maybe the 5th goal could be something like taking, 5 of them and increasing them by at least, and do it how number 4 is written, increasing it by maybe it's, 20% instead of the 10%. But, choosing which ways. But I will say that, some of the red items I have felt, I remember going to a conference for my own child and saying like, she's struggling, this, that, whatever. And the teacher was like, well, this is what's best. I'm like, well, that's not what's best for my child to learn. And it was like, well, it's child-centered. I don't want to teach. I don't want to be up there teaching. Like, not that she doesn't want to teach, but meaning like she doesn't want to be directing. She wants the students to figure it out, because that process would be more gainful in the end, right? But not everybody can learn that way. Some people really do need to be shown the water first, So, some of them I really do, have agreed with, but I think maybe choosing 5 of them to, increase the percentage by a certain, a certain number is more realistic.
Well, fortunately, thank you for that, Mr. Zilla. Fortunately, we actually have our all-day administrative retreat tomorrow. So this is a good opportunity for us to sort of bring the feedback from the board back to the group to sort of put pencil back to paper on the goals. But I think I have the general idea, which is, and I appreciate it, is a more ambitious sort of agenda, if you will. And I certainly think, it has been our aspiration with the strategic plan. Our goal is to move all risks. Basically, the goal is that after 5 years, it's only strengths. That is the goal. The goal is that there is no more, that at the end of a 5-year period of time, we've eliminated all the red. So that is a goal, but sort of memorializing that into an actual district goal in some way, I think is valid. So let us sort of digest it, and we'll have an updated draft. Definitely for, for the board's consideration because it would be on the agenda for the 28th. So we'll definitely have an updated document for your perusal, if you will. So thank you for that.
All right. So if we could figure out a way for, on average, to see at least one community member in those seats coming to our meetings, we get a band to open up for us ahead of time just to get the community out here. She has some sort of goal around getting the community out to take part in the discussion, because what I've seen in a year and a half on the board is we do communicate about a lot of stuff, and the administration's always talking about some ideas that end up getting implemented. And then after they're implemented is when you typically hear from people, and it makes it a lot tougher when it just would have been easier. We want to take in everybody's feedback. So to try to, again, put a parameter on getting people more involved in these discussions to offer their perspectives would be helpful prior to implementation. Couple things regarding the surveys. If there was a way, I'd love to understand how the 8th graders leaving SATs, when they get to freshman year, maybe at the end of freshman year, take a survey to understand how well or not well we prepared them for high school. And I know we've been talking about this for a while, and we're doing, and things are happening for sure. But certain things I've seen, like the presentation, the program of studies, that I thought was phenomenal and helpful. And it really gave like an outline and a journey of where your child can go. And I just want to make sure we're leveraging this material that we put out there. So like 7th graders are seeing that stuff. And I know that as a parent, there's a lot of involved parents. There's a lot of parents who just don't have the time to be as involved. And it'd be great to have that playbook so that parent could say, okay, if you want to take an honors or you want to go to AP, this is what you need to do to get there. So I think that's good to understand, like how well we're preparing SATs kids to when they finally land in I don't know what type of parameter to put on there as a goal, but just something. And then we'll take this conversation and continue to pick it up. And then one other note that, and again, we're making progress in these areas. It's just continuing to keep our foot on the gas and then fine tune it. And then I'm all about technology, as many technology offerings since my first curriculum meeting with the staff there and the administration. It was all about, how can we enhance our technology curriculum and also offer as many clubs as possible. Like bringing that AI camp to Homedale was really awesome. And I know a lot of the conversation was getting AI into our curriculum. It's moving fast, and the more we can teach our kids, any sort of technology groups after school, trying to build the tech youth culture in Homedale, maybe leveraging Bell Works. And again, just some raw thoughts. Terrence put us on the spot here, but we could come back and fine tune. But those are some of the thoughts in my head that I'd like to see make progress during my tenure here on the board, those areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Ready?
Are we skipping you? Terrence? You're taking a pass?
Yes.
Okay. No, I agree with most of what everyone said. I mean, I know years ago, Terrence, we sat here and we almost had to beg and plead to get a high school exit survey. And if anything, those, 3,000 or so kids, or just under 3,000 kids, are the customers. At the end of the day, those are the ones that matter more than anything else going on here. So I love this survey. One thing I always thought is like, hey, why don't we do a survey at the beginning of the year? It's great that the kids, my kids will be a senior and he'll be done. Let's cover like what Chris, I think that's a great idea of having a, how did the freshman year work for you guys that came across from SATs? Did it meet your expectations? Did it not? And then if we can keep making things better, we're doing good that way. I know years ago, kids were talking about, okay, I'm a freshman. Why am I taking, what was the class? It was financial literacy. Why am I worrying about resumes and job applications and everything else when I don't even have a car or license or a credit card? Why am I not taking that till junior or senior? And obviously there were certain reasons, but it was very refreshing to hear what these kids were thinking that we're not thinking. And I think the only thing I would ask on the survey, Scott, is do we have a spot that has for some free form? If there's certain other comments that they want to give that we're not asking, because we might miss some of those things.
Yeah, all the data triangle surveys have a comment section as well. And just as a note, Mr. Reddy and the board, it is my intention at the September board meeting to present a comprehensive update on the strategic plan, including some analytic highlights from the surveys, comparative data from the first year to the second year, where we improved, where we haven't. So that'll be an opportunity to roll all this information out to the community as well as the surveys. And that will also include, highlights from the comment section, because there's a pretty comprehensive comment section as well.
Okay, thanks. I mean, that's my comments, Terrence. And then, from the district goals, they're fine. I mean, we've always talked about as long as they're measurable. I do agree trying to move 12 from red or yellow to green is going to that's a heavy lift and undertaking, but hey, if you want to be ambitious, that's good. No reason we can't shoot for the stars and, at least try to get progress. That's and we're continuing to do that. So I think we're doing what we should be doing for the kids. So.
Go on.
Yeah, testing. So I agree with Board Member Damari's comments about the community engagement. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, that was part of the strategic plan, right? That was a piece of it. Admittedly, I didn't get to review all of the survey data. I think we just got the email today, but from the beginning, even last year, I thought it was a great initiative. I like the idea. I just want to make sure that we have quality data, and I think one of the questions was, does the teacher explain things so everyone can understand it? I think that's read because of some kind of perception. Maybe if we reworded that question, it might be green at that point, so, just make sure we have the quality data and we're, kind of just not collecting data to collect data. But I think it's from the survey perspective, I think it's a great opportunity. And I like Pete's idea, beginning of the year, the end of the year. So, yeah, it would, that's it. That's what I got.
Really nothing to add to the goals. I just, sometimes I personally lose sight of the goals as we go throughout the year. And as you just mentioned, I think that it'd be nice to have more frequent updates as we kind of hit those milestones. So that's just something I'd like to see personally. And then, as Chris and Jeff mentioned previously, sometimes there's not enough interface with the public. And, we've got a pretty diverse community here in Homedale. I know this was talked about previously, but, we've got a pool of knowledge and people with specific skills and information that's valuable to these students. I remember going into graduating and going to college, and not knowing what I wanted to do. It would be great to almost have like a TED talk to some degree, of having like an expert or a panel of experts come in and just explain what they do, how they
It's
got.
career day.
Oh, well, I didn't know. Okay. Nobody.
No, well, Indian Hill does it, so you
But
want
there's-
one for the high school,
That's,
Yeah,
is what you're saying,
well,
which is a good idea.
yeah, yeah. No, I
think that's-
nobody
We
invited
use the
me.
auditorium and
Maybe I
have
should
bigger
be there.
speakers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a excellent idea, Board Member Buckley.
What's that?
Is it my turn? So I definitely agree with the sentiments of Board Member Reddy. We should definitely be looking in the beginning and at the end of the school year. And he's right, they are our customers. So in business, you want to make sure that your customer is happy, right? And what are we providing them? What do they want from us? So I think that would be a very important thing to start doing. But also on the other hand, if I'm not mistaken, this is given to the outgoing seniors?
So we do administer an exit survey to the seniors. The survey that's largely been the focus of our conversation is what's called the Data Triangle Survey, which is what we administer annually to students in grades 6 through 12. It was the same survey that was administered to inform the strategic plan, and we do it annually to track our progress. And that surveys kids on a whole range of different topics.
Well, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we should obviously be utilizing that information to keep growing and set high and lofty goals for ourselves, like board member or board president Wall mentioned, is why not look at all of these reds and try to make them yellow? If you go for 2, you might get 1. If you go for 13, you might get 5.
Or green,
Right?
on the way to green, yeah.
One other thing, I apologize. Sorry.
No, I was gesturing to Mr. Buckley. It was actually affirming his recommendation for the updates. I think it's an excellent suggestion. Thank you.
And then the other thing I think with the board member Damari and Mann mentioned about the participation. Yeah, I personally think that it's correlative to the public relations firm being hired and really getting out the information that we need, or how the stakeholders are going to consume our information, right? I do not expect one parent to come to one of these meetings unless they just want to fall asleep and be bored. And come on, let's agree. We're here because this is what we asked for. None of them asked to sit in a 2.5-hour meeting that 90% of it, they have no idea what's going on. This is not the way that they're going to consume information. I don't expect them to come. We owe it to them to give them the information that they're going to want to hear and want to know about the right way. And that's how the public relations firm is going to help us to get those asses in seats, excuse my language. But quite frankly, that's how they're going to start participating. Okay. If they know what's going on in a timely fashion and in a way that they're going to consume the information that will allow them to react. So there you go.
I am going to echo the family and community engagement part. I think we don't need to beat a dead horse at this point, but it would be nice to hear from stakeholders prior to voting on something, yeah, up or down, right? Be involved. I mean, that's kind of why we're here, because we want to be involved and we want to be part in this decision-making process. And this is for them and their kids. So, I think what Pete said at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, that would piggyback off of what Kim said, about at least having 2 data sets from the same, same people, right? A start and a finish from the same people. So that would increase maybe the quality of, at least for a very focused 1-year period of time, but at least 2 inputs or responses from the same people. So I think that's good. And I also think we should encourage, enhance, strengthen, I don't know what the right verb is, but partnerships, with the public and the private sector to see how they can become engaged, whether that's like naming things to bring in the resources, whether that's TED Talks, whether, what form that takes remains to be seen. But I think we should continue to kind of engage with the public sector, the private community and community members, career days at the different schools, rather than just Indian Hill, I think, at this point. So there's different ways we can do that, but how that's incorporated into the district goals, we can chat about that, obviously.
Thank you very much. So Dr. Cascone, you've got input from the board. And so the next steps would be to draft an update, right?
Yes, sir.
And then if it's in order, it could be considered for approval at the board meeting. Dr. Claire, did you have one more
Something
item?
quick about the community engagement. I think maybe if we keep our meetings tighter and have a time limit, and say whatever we need to say more in a more focused manner, at least the board meeting, and not when the public wants to speak, if all of them want to come and speak, we give them time. But at least our portion, if we keep it 7 to 8:30, not more than that, at least have that goal, maybe public will not be so bored. If we make it tighter, I feel there's a greater chance they may come, because they got to sit through an hour of this, rather than, it being an indeterminate end. I think if you have an end point and strive to keep to that, because whatever we're saying, we can say it more effectively and quickly. I mean, we're not saying, things that definitely need 2 hours to be said. So I think that could be good for all of us. So we're more focused. That's what I think.
Can
Not
you
to-
sum that up? Just kidding. I'm joking. I'm
Um,
kidding. There's a joke.
Not
Right.
not to be funny, but are we able to see, I mean, part of the community outreach to me is why we have this online, the video. Is there a way to keep track of views?
But
Do you mean views
Like who,
currently, or do you mean like total views, like including who watches it after you go?
that one, who watches it once we're done?
Closest you can sort of get is clicks on that page, which is sort of accurate. You might click on the page, not watch the video. Actually,
So maybe like that's a way to, a data point to track, right? Because we know who's signed on. So like right now, currently watching live, I have no idea what it is, but right, I think we can say like, there's 12 people watching and then how many clicks to the video. And then we can try to track that over time.
I think at a separate point, we can talk about how this should just be on YouTube, which is what the majority of schools and municipalities are. There are some data concerns with it. But that's exactly how you'll get either, more folks can follow it with their YouTube channels, and you'll see the views right on the bottom. Doug, did you have anything on that?
No,
Doug?
I vaguely recall like a debate over that when I first got on came to the district, right?
Quite a debate, yes. Just getting it online, just getting it on.
Yeah.
View,
Yeah.
was.
It was also nice when people could ask questions online. I feel that it'll help them get engaged more. It was good, but we stopped it for certain other reasons because we thought people not from Homedale were speaking. But if you can find a way to make that happen, then people can actually participate because it's hard for them to get their kids covered and do their home stuff. So if we can get around to that, I think it'll help.
Because you brought it up, I'd like the attorney to give a quick piece of input on this, the public portion getting out from, it becomes very hard to control. Whether you're Zoom bombed, if anybody's been familiar with that during COVID, you know precisely what I'm talking about. It can get really rancid when it's live and you're not able to control the dialogue at all. But do you want to speak to what you're seeing out there and the pros and cons of?
I gotta
doing
be
that?
honest, I think I can't think of any client that hasn't moved away from it during COVID. There certainly was much more online back and forth, allowing people to log in and comment. I can't think of any client that's still doing that anymore. I'm not saying there's any problem with it. I mean, again, it's more of a technology concern, I guess. I do recall board meetings again early in COVID where we had people logging in that were doing things that were not proper and disrupted the meeting and became problematic. I will say the bigger concern, I do have one client that still is allowing email comments to come in, and that has remained unruly because it's much easier to type out a stream of consciousness and then expect it to be written than actually come here and whatnot. So from a legal perspective, I'm not so much concerned. From an organizational governance perspective, I would advise caution with opening it up to email comments for sure.
But the chat option on live, that's what you mean?
Same
Is
thing.
that what you
They
mean?
don't use the chat option. They have like an email address that members of the public can send in an email, kind of like, I guess, like board correspondence, but they have a specific portion of the meeting that they specifically dedicate, actually 2 portions, because they have their IT person check the email during the middle of the meeting to see if anything came in. And when there is an irate member of the public, they are not hesitant to, be aggressive to an extent that I don't think they would be aggressive if they were here in person, actually having a
So
look.
let's try to
You've
move
got the
along. Did you have
keyboard
something?
cowboys,
Well,
right?
Well,
That's essentially
one
what it
quick
is.
note to that, like
Keyboard
when the
cowboys.
township has their meetings, they're live on Facebook, so people it pulls up on their Facebook and the meeting's going, and yes, you can comment. Maybe we could consider something like that, and the meetings are put through a Homedale school district group that you have to be part of the district to get approved into the group, and then you run the meetings. Because people are more prone to see it come up on their Facebook feed and go, oh, I'll watch some of this, then go to our website and find the live
And
feed.
click 14 times to get to the.
Yeah,
Zoom
so
link.
why, have we considered that, putting it up on Facebook? Our meetings like the township does?
Right. What's the reason not to? Because Terrence, I don't know. I know we discussed this a few years ago, and I'd be curious, Kyle, if you know if a lot of other districts are putting on YouTube channels and everything, like,
The
I'm
main op-
already here, so what's the point of not putting it,
Yeah.
making it as possible, as many avenues as possible for someone to see it? Like you could go
Yeah.
dial into the Homedale, whatever, the link you guys
Okay,
send
yeah.
out. What's the difference from
Right.
Facebook or YouTube?
The main
whatever?
opposition, Peter, was because it was my idea.
Okay, well, I say
That's-
I
that's
say
the
we,
main- That
I
was the
say
main
we,
reason.
I
But
would
I
make a
think-
motion or whatever
Yeah,
next week
but
to
we can do
relook into
Facebook.
it or whatever, because
Yeah.
why would we not want to? I mean, that's
Also,
up to the board.
are we able to move up the public comment in our meetings to say, hey, every night it'll start at 8:30, no matter what, just so people don't have to, they not only know when the public comment would happen, but not have to sit through 2-3 hours worth of meeting?
Oh, just to be fair to the board, it's 8 o'clock. We did executive session at 6. We started the public session at 7 for a multi-million-dollar, multi-facility budget. So it's 8 o'clock. We'll be done in probably about 20 minutes.
I was at
The last
like
meeting was
7:15. It should be first.
The last meeting was 12 minutes long.
It could
So-
be first. I don't care
Right.
when it happens, but when it's last and then people don't know how long they have to sit here for. And then at least if there was a time like, hey, you'll have an opportunity to speak, we should consider.
All right, well, we do move things around. If there's a group here that has a certain topic, we typically do roll it to get them able to just grab the mic. But to Board Member Reddy's point, is there, or perhaps you can do it after the meeting if you want to ponder it some more, consensus on getting this up on, the IT can also connect with administration about the mechanics of doing it similar to the township does. It's on Facebook, live, it's on YouTube, you could stream it. It's very, very common. So perhaps, why don't we get that offline and get your feedback or input instead of having to do a snap vote on it? You're going to say something, Board? Okay.
I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
about YouTube, but I personally am not very comfortable. If it has to be done, it does. But, we have ourselves recorded forevermore. Anybody can see us, all the time. I think audio is what I'd prefer, really.
Okay. Thank you. So let's get into the agenda. Any comments or questions for Dr. Cascone or administrative personnel that are here on the agenda that is draft for next week?
Elena, would you just, we won't mention it in detail, but there is a discrepancy. Elena, do you just thank you, Board Member DeSilla, for pointing it out. Elena, will you just call attention for the board that the item number, without, delving into the specifics on the number, just that is erroneous and it will be corrected? Just put your mic on, Elena. Thank you.
It's motion number.
You good talking to your microphone, Elena?
Let me just find the motion. Oh, it's motion 24 and it's item number N. It was the difference amount. The decimal point was off.
So just
we did
move
the
it
right
over
amount. Yeah.
one spot.
Yeah, so we'll have that corrected
It'll be
when it goes home tomorrow. Thanks, Elena.
Thank you very much.
corrected on there.
Any other questions on the agenda?
Just my one comment, if you can explain, I think it's exciting. Number 26, there's a young entrepreneur club that's going to be happening. Is that, I believe at Indian Hill, right?
Yep, at Indian Hill. And that's, I don't want to sound like, a parrot with talking about the strategic plan, but that is an outgrowth of the strategic plan in terms of that was one of the pieces of feedback we got in our initial strategic plan surveys, was an interest in seeing more extracurricular activities, particularly at Indian Hill. And so that's in response to that. We had robotics added last year. This year we're adding the entrepreneurial club. And just as another piece, because of our change start times, we'll be able to offer a late bus at Indian Hill so students can stay after, do clubs, and then, so particularly for our sixth graders, it enables them to have kind of more of a middle school type of experience.
Is that only for sixth?
No, it's for all,
For
but
fourth, fifth and
yeah.
sixth?
Mhm.
And then they also got the science fair going 2 years ago, which has been a huge hit. So these are all big steps.
Yeah.
Little steps,
Yeah,
big steps.
and born out of community
that.
feedback. So.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to central office department updates. If we can hear from Dr. Lamoglia, right? Very nice. Thank you. We can hear from you first, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. All right. So our extended school year program ended August 15th. So just last Thursday, and at a culminating activity, we have all of the classes present to our families. So the families come in, they share what they've been working on all summer, and there really isn't a dry eye in the room. So the parents are really engaged. They're really happy. They're happy to see their kids exactly in the environment they've been in for the last 6 weeks. And it was a great time. So again, we celebrate everyone that participated, the students, the families, and obviously our staff, who was incredible. Case management letters are going out, so parents will receive them by the end of this week. So they can have that available to them. And of course, related services are going to begin on Wednesday, September 11th. And in addition to that, we're just preparing now for the start of the school year, getting ready for professional development for our teachers, for our staff, just regular, start of school.
Thank you very much. And I'll just share that Brookdale Community College has announced the establishment of the Center for Adult Transition. It's an innovative center. It's administered by the New Jersey Office of the Secretary of Higher Education right over in Brookdale, and set to open its doors this fall, which is another very exciting.
That is, we're a
Yeah.
part of the SAIL and the Voyager community at Brookdale Community, which allows our students, we start them when they're 2021, and it allows them to go to 26. So, which is wonderful for parents to just have that transition, somewhere to go twice a week. And it's just been fantastic. This is the first year we're actually paying. For the first 2 years was completely free to us. Obviously, we're significantly discounted. We've been with them since the beginning of the inception of the program, but it's just going to be another opportunity for our families.
It's great. Coming
Yeah.
right out of Homedale. It's awesome. Thank you. Mr. Howard.
Okay, so next week, Ms. Rizzatello and I will be doing the HIB training for the ABSs and the anti-bullying specialists and the counselors in the district. It's just to align protocols to make sure that everybody is following the same procedure when it comes to HIB investigations. And also, I'm going to try to push the data collection to make sure that the information that we're given to the state in that SDSS report, that's the student data report, aligns with the information that's in our hipster system and on Power School. So it's going to be a training reference to that.
Mr. Howard, I just want
Yes.
to publicly acknowledge Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard took the initiative to become, it was really a master training course in anti-bullying, correct? You want to just tell the board and the public a little bit about that pretty rigorous course you took?
Yeah, it's well, I'm already have the certification to be a anti-bullying specialist, but the NJPSA offers another course to be a master bullying specialist. Full transparency, I had no idea that it was going to be as intense as it was, but it was good. I learned a lot. So a lot of what I got from that course is what I'm trying to translate over to the counselors here. And they were actually very impressed at the stuff that Homedale was doing, because I had to do a big presentation for them about our programs and our procedures. So it was a good program. It just was really intense. I just didn't really realize how much they was going to ask me to do, but it was a good program.
Well, thank you for doing it. Appreciate it.
And then, of course, if you allow, Prismal, we have another master trainer here as well. I think she mentioned it. Dr. Lamoglia mentioned it at our last committee of the whole. She and Mr. Papalia were down in Maryland. They were both trained as master trainers in the behavioral threat assessment protocols. And now the county team is trying to drag them over there and plug in with the county team. But Dr. Lamoglia said, you're going to have to talk to Dr. Cascone about that. I have not received a call yet, but we're really proud of the work that our team's doing, particularly in this area of, again, positive behavior, anti-bullying, mental health, really going above and beyond to upskill and get trained so we can do the best job possible for our kids. So just wanted to publicly commend and thank both Dr. Lamoglia and Mr. Howard for taking the initiative on that.
Thank you, Dr. Cascone, for pointing out these very important endeavors. Mike Petrizzo, anything from your side of the house?
No, I guess the most, from a health benefits perspective, it is, we are working with Brown & Brown, our insurance brokers, to get our claims history. So we can start that process moving forward and be in a position to assess the market and all applicable carriers. So we anticipate getting that data back from the state health benefit plan the end of this month by mid-September, and we will update the board accordingly when we do get that information back, and what that process will provide us from a open market perspective. A lot of projects from our buildings and grounds team that provide and do so much work over the summer. The shared service project that we work with the township on, the lights was completed. Fortunately, that's done and tested, so that was a success. Just so the board's aware, when we do get the actual final cost is when you'll see a transfer come up across for the transfer out of our capital reserve. We were just waiting until we got the final bill, and it was just one exact number. So we're waiting on that. Once we do get it, you will see that transfer come along. The transfers we required anytime you're utilizing capital reserve funds, there is a transfer that the board must approve, and the county office must approve it as well. So they're aware of that project. It's just a procedural thing, but you'll see that coming across. Again, if you've been around the buildings, I know the board has, you see a lot of elements in the hallways and whatnot. That's the deep cleaning that does go on. Our team does a lot. And it's important to note, they are also mindful of when they're pulling the furniture and whatnot into the hallways. They're also mindful of making sure that there's no blockage and there's no egress issues and whatnot. So it is you know, a beautiful science to see that what goes on. We also had our team trained with our new insurance brokers came in and had did a quick training with our building service personnel this week, and just to kind of go over like slip, trip, and fall related stuff and general tips to just try to keep everybody safe and healthy when we are doing our working hard. And then as far as from a grounds perspective, our crew's been working hard to prep all of our athletic fields for all the activities that have already kicked off and all the wonderful fall sports that are getting ready to start. And then also, as we talked about previous meetings, that work's being done on our SATS gym. A lot of work you'll see going on there, but also in the wrestling, the new multi-purpose gym and the high school main gym and the SATS gym's all new padding's going to be going up. So it'll definitely see a nice enhancements made to our complex gyms. From a transportation perspective, it's important to note we're very, very happy that we'll be having our 4th annual Peaceful School Bus event. That's coming up at Village School Open House on August 26th and the 28th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Again, it's a great program that Mrs. Carducci and Paula Rico and all her team have pulled together, working with our contractors to educate our youngest and make it fun and get them comfortable with all the proper protocols and safety on getting on our buses, but doing it in a fun manner. It's been really a great success the last 3 years, and we're happy to continue to do that. And then obviously we've you know, we're continuing to we've communicated with our families accordingly with their routes. We know this will be an interesting start of the year. We're continuing to communicate with our contractors, working towards a successful and safe opening this year from a transportation perspective. And that pretty much kind of covers where we are. And any questions?
Thank you very much. The also related to the roads and transportation, I want to thank Mayor Providuto, Deputy Mayor Foster, and Township Committee, as well as Jay Delaney and the administrative team for moving forward on the milling and paving repairs on Crawford's Corner Road. There's no update on $3.5 million grant that was applied for, discretionary aid grant. Hopefully that'll be approved. But at least we'll have a safer, transit for not just the students, but everyone in the community moving forward. The only 2 items I want to bring up, not for discussion now, but I'd like to have our Phoenix advisors start working on the pilot calculations as it would relate to the budget for whether it's perspective with Vonage or what's happening with Bellworks or Nokia, et cetera. So they start crunching those numbers for the budget for next year. And then also want to just make sure I keep it on the radar with the engineers that we appointed to take a look at the hazardous street survey. To the extent that courtesy busing is a topic that comes up in the budget discussions moving forward. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. However, we have significant financial pressures that are coming to bear, and it's important to get ahead of where the hazardous streets are to the extent that any of these, any walkability issues would be needed for transportation. So that's a couple items I had. are there any other items for board members here now? Because then otherwise we'll open it up to the public.
Can I just make a request to
Yep.
Mr. Howard that when tracking the HIB this year, when you gave your presentation last year, you know, and looking at the numbers, you were like, you know, this percent was like cultural bias, this percent was, right? Like it was those general topics. And one of the bigger ones was electronic. But so I'm just, if you could, when it's electronic, can you keep track of electronic what? Right? Because electronic could be any of those other topics. Just out of curiosity, like just for our numbers, if we're able to do that, because, you know, was it an electronic perceived LGBTQ thing? Was it electronic cultural? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you don't mean like, was it phone or computer?
No, just like the type of bullying that was going on that was electric, because it
Oh,
could fit
got
into, it could almost fit into either one, but because it happened, let's say after school on the computer, social media, it's being put into electronic. But I feel like there could be overlap that perhaps it was cultural name calling or something like that, so that we can better understand what type of electronic bullying is going on.
It's more like a subcategory for each one, possibly.
Well, for
Right.
electronic, which is that one, everything else was very specific. It was just
Right.
that one. Yeah, if we could just know what type, the subcategories under electronic.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So then,
Quick
yes.
question, coming back to the cell phone use. I know I missed the discussion last time, but I got the gist of it. Are we going to be more strict about enforcing that cell phone restriction?
Dr. Cascone, do you want to speak briefly about that?
Yes, sir. Yes. We're going to continue to build on our efforts last year, where I think we saw some positive movement. And I think that the theme this year is controlling everything we can control, right? So ensuring that we're as close to 100% accountability and enforcing the rules that we have. And I'm optimistic that with building on last year, you know, we do not necessarily have to move to a full ban at this time.
Thank you very much. Now we'll open the discussion up to the public. Any questions? from the
Terrence, I
public?
have one more for
Yes,
you.
sorry.
So August 1st, I know we didn't talk about it, the high school had their second guidance event. And I know last year was the first year we did it. I think we did it middle of the summer, and they had a good showing last year, maybe 20, 25 families. This year they had over 75 families and the kids. I know I was actually there with my senior, and just a real, you know, every guidance counselor was there, including the guidance director, I guess we're calling Casey Rizzatello. But it was a really good thing. We've never done it that early. So now we've actually opened it up. So if there's children and students that want to get applications out, August 1st, when they open up for all colleges, just like, you know, students from Texas and Florida and wherever else, we're not behind the eight ball like we were for so many years. So at least now those kids have the opportunity to get the applications out ahead of time and not having to wait till September 20th or whatever date it is when the school starts again. So Scott, thanks for putting that in. And, you know, former high school principal, Dr. Kokoda, and everyone else, it was a very successful day, it looked like. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Clear? Good? Great. So now we'd open it up to the public. There are no members here in the public, so we're going to close that portion, and we don't have an executive session. So if there are no other comments, entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Move.
Discussion, signify yes by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night.